Hi guys, it's Nazra Marie, and welcome to my debut episode of Nzpirationz TV podcast. I am so excited to be talking to you guys today, and I decided that I would change things up from how I may typically do things, which is, usually airing guest interviews. And I decided that instead today, just because this is my longest length of time that I've ever just sat and directly spoken to my followers and my any newcomers coming to my page. So I thought that it'd be a really great idea just to kind of give you guys a sense of my personality so that you guys can kind of get a sense of who I am and what I'm all about. So today on my debut episode, it is titled Woman Up. And what that means to me, and if you guys have ever used that phrase, I usually don't hear the phrase used. I'm the only person I know that's actually used it, but I'm sure other people have. And I decided to go with that title for today because it's the name of my book that I am currently writing. And I'm really excited about it because it just has so many great little examples of how it is that we talk ourselves out of greatness and how we sort of back down from keeping our word. So I thought that this would be a great example, a great sort of like lead into the podcast so that way you guys can, get a sense of, again, like what I'm all about and how I communicate. And I'm very no holds barred, very no bullshit. And I think that that's one of the biggest, things that in life we need to be able to do is just not bullshit, just be very no nonsense. And so I decided that that's why I wanted to really talk about this subject, because I feel like we make so many excuses for ourselves on a regular basis. So I wanted to use myself as an example for some of the ways in which we kind of get in our own way. So, all right. So I'm going to start with integrity. Okay. So a lot of people, myself included, really just kind of attribute integrity to being, this sound moral person, right? You have a very strong moral compass. You like to do unto others as, you would like them to do unto you, that sort of thing. And that was really all that I ever attributed to integrity, just like being a good person. And what was really interesting is about maybe 6 months ago, I was speaking with this executive coach, Chris North, who has amazing content on Instagram, by the way. And I did a consult with him. And what was really interesting is that, so of course, it's during quarantine already. And he said that he was doing, free consults. So I was really excited. And I went onto his calendar and made an appointment for us to do a Zoom call. And I was so stoked and so excited. Wow, okay, I'm gonna meet with this like really cool executive coach with all this experience. And so I logged on, and again, I got to make the appointment because, that's how his calendar was set up to make appointments. And I logged on, I think it was like 5 o'clock was my appointment time. And, I'm just kind of scrambling to get things together and hurry up and sit down with one of my favorite notebooks, because I have like 12,000 notebooks, but that's a whole other thing we'll get into way later on. Not today, but just eventually. And so I'm sitting there and my computer is kind of taking forever to log on, which it was doing at the time because I was having a lot of internet issues. And I knew to just, why didn't I just kind of, log on ahead of time? Well, I didn't. Anyway, so I log on. I'm like, okay, great. It's 5:01. No big deal. All right. So I log on and we're talking to each other. And, I was just kind of like running down my sort of, case for him of, why I wanted to consult with him and just some challenges that I was experiencing in my life. And he goes into this whole thing about integrity. And he says, so Nazra, he said, yes. And he says, so for example, he says, what time was your appointment? And I said, oh, 5 o'clock. He says, okay, do you remember what time it was when you logged on? And I said, I think it's 5:01. And he says, exactly. And he's like, and who made the appointment? that would be me. That would be me. And he says, look, I don't care that you're a minute late. That's not the point. And the reason why I bring this up, because I know there's a lot of people who might listen to this at first listen and just go, oh, well, that's so stupid. It's 1 minute. Who cares? It's not about the 1 minute, because for me, 1 minute was actually early/on time. Okay. And it's typical that, I would be 5, 10, or 15 minutes late. And a lot of the friends that I interact with are also usually 5, 10, or 15 minutes late. And so there was no real accountability, right? And it's one of those things where I think it's so important that you have people around you in any capacity to call bullshit, not about, putting you down, not about being nitpicky and trying to kind of be a perfectionist or to make you perfect. That's not really the point. The point is that had I have been early, which didn't usually happen for me, had I been early, he would have missed out on this very important piece of information that really was able to help me. And so I want to delve more into that because, again, I want people to get that it's not about 1 minute. He didn't give a shit that I was 1 minute late. That wasn't the point. The point was that I made the appointment and that I was accountable to making sure that I was on time. And I knew I had plenty of time to log on a few minutes early or 5 minutes early. And I knew my internet was slow at that time. So why wouldn't I do that? And the thing is, it's because I wasn't used to. I wasn't used to doing that. I wasn't used to being 5 minutes early or 10 minutes early. It would happen sometimes, but it wasn't consistent. And that's something that really goes into integrity. Integrity is really, and this is something that I learned from just that one session, was that integrity was about following through on what it is that you say that you're going to do, holding yourself accountable to a certain standard. And again, this is not about being perfect. This is not about, being a perfectionist. Okay. This is really just about following through in every area of your life where you say that you're going to do something and you should stand by it. And this bleeds over into many other different areas of your life, believe me. And I know it's so easy to say, oh, well, I'm so honest. I don't lie. Bullshit. Everybody lies. Everybody lies about something, whether you realize you are or you don't realize that you are, whether it's conscious, whether it's subconscious, it really doesn't matter because everybody lies about something. And I don't care if it's like a little white lie of you saying, oh, I had my 8 glasses of water today, but you're still like nursing the first glass. I'm not talking about just like little things like that, but just things that happen in everyday life that you just don't hold yourself accountable to do. So I really want to talk about that today because I want to share with you guys some of the things that I've overcome in my life, particularly this year. This year, I really stepped it up. I was tired of talking about what I wanted to do, what I was going to do, and eventually I'm going to do it. Oh, but I haven't had the time and this and that. All those excuses, those are really just a lack of integrity. And we all have them on certain levels. And some of us have actually managed to master, consistency. And again, not meaning that we're perfect, but just meaning that we hold ourselves to a certain standard and we don't bullshit ourselves and make excuses for why we don't do something. So, all right. So let's go into this like a little bit more. So what are some of the excuses that we make when it comes to not following through on what we say we're going to do? And the thing is that the sad thing is that we could do things if we really wanted to. And the thing is that it's not that we don't want to do the thing. So just say, for example, a blog, okay? We've been talking about starting a blog or even a podcast. We've been talking about it, been thinking about it, been mulling it around. And then we start talking about it. We start telling friends or our family about it. And we start saying, oh yes, I'm going to start this blog, or I'm going to start this podcast, or I'm going to launch this t-shirt line. So again, I'm talking about myself because I really just want to show you how even me, like I've gone through different areas of my life where I talked about something incessantly for years. And it's really just chronic procrastination. And, I am still, on a certain level, a recovering procrastinator. And that's something that I have to be really mindful of in my life, and just make sure that when I'm making excuses for myself, that I recognize it as an excuse and not as a reason. Because the thing is, we don't like when other people don't follow through on what they say they're going to do for us, right? But for some reason, when it comes to us holding ourselves accountable for what we say we're going to do for ourselves and for our life, we somehow just like let it fall to the wayside. And if you have an issue with that, and a lot of people do, I know they do, and a lot of people have real commitments, right? They have kids, or they have a really demanding job, or they're taking care of a sick parent or something like that. I mean, some of us actually have like legitimate reasons for why it takes us longer to do things. And the thing is, a lot of times, like when people have those bigger excuses, like raising a family, being a full-time, parent, stay-at-home parent, which I guess a lot of parents right now are stay-at-home parents. But a lot of times, the more excuses people have, the less they use them. And so sometimes we'll end up using stupid excuses like, oh, well, I'm married. Well, who cares? Like, what does that mean? You guys both have your individuality. You both have your individual lives. And if your relationship should not take away from your productivity, it should actually encourage your productivity. So we just make up these silly excuses that really don't make any sense. And I'm going to get into one of my pet peeve sayings, and not because it doesn't have a place, but because we overuse it and we misuse it. And that is the term being gentle with yourself. Oh my gosh. I didn't start that blog. I didn't start that podcast last year, last month, 6 months ago, whenever it was. You know what? I'm not saying you should sit and dog yourself out and put yourself down and call yourself names. Absolutely not. No, that doesn't have a place. That's unnecessary. But what I am saying is that being gentle with yourself should not be a way that you let yourself off the hook for not doing something. Okay. If you don't tell yourself the truth about what it is that you're doing, then you really doom yourself to repeating the same behavior over and over again. And that's not what you want to do. You want to break those habits. And so, like, prime example for me. So one of the things that I used to really, really struggle with was getting up in the mornings. Getting up in the mornings, that was it. I mean, a lot of people, they jump right out of bed and they're dancing and singing and, whatever it is that, chipper morning people do, right? And granted, I'm still not a chipper morning person, but definitely I have grown leaps and bounds. Literally in the past year, I started getting up when my alarm went off. Wow. I mean, just something as simple as that. But for me, it was no easy feat. And sometimes you have to start small. Sometimes you have to start with really small things like getting up when your alarm goes off. So I'm just going to give you sort of a snapshot as to what I was like more than a year ago. So it's been more than a year that I've actually consistently gotten up when my alarm goes off. Okay. So I used to have, I needed to leave the house by like 7:40, 7:45, right? So I had an alarm that went off at 6 because that would make sense for me to get up at 6 o'clock. No, didn't do that. So I had an alarm at 6, one at 6:30, one at, I think it was like 6:45 and another at 7. And what time did I get up? About 7:15, honestly. And then I was rushing and trying to like hurry up and put my makeup on, and oh, screw it. I'll just, I'm always at a standstill for like 2 miles of my commute. So I'll just put my makeup on in the car. Bad idea. Which granted, I was good at it, but I don't encourage it. I don't think that the only thing you should be doing while you're driving is driving and looking at the road. And, it was just so silly. I used to struggle to get out of bed. I mean, I'm a grown woman. Woman up. Get out of bed. Your alarm went off. Get out of the bed. Leave the bed. The bed will still be there when you get home if you really need to lay down. But really, I just had this resistance to not holding myself accountable to actually get out of the bed. So what I did was, I would make all these promises to myself. Okay, starting tomorrow. Okay, starting Monday. Okay, starting the first of the month. What? Why do we make these things up? How do we make up these cockamamie rules? Well, we have to start Monday. Well, you know what? It's Wednesday, and you have to go to work tomorrow and Friday. Start the next day. Like literally start that day. And then again, not just start that day, but start the night before. Okay, if you know yourself that you need a good solid 8 hours of sleep, start the night before. Make sure that you eat dinner at a decent time. Make sure that you're getting ready for bed at a decent time. Make sure that whatever time you go to bed, it gives you a full 8 hours between the time you lay down and the time you get up. So I said, you know what? I'm kind of tired of this. I'm kind of tired of it. So I started plugging in my phone, and I actually discussed this on the episode. I think it's like next week. But I started plugging in my phone by the door so that I would literally physically have to leave my bed and get up, walk across the room, and turn off the alarm. Oh my God, I tell you, my ego had the biggest field day with this. It was so dramatic. It was so dramatic. But I stuck with it. So what I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to get up at 6 o'clock right away, but here's what I can do. And so sometimes you have to make these little negotiations with your ego so that your ego doesn't completely freak out and panic. And sometimes you just have to go, it's okay. All right. The ego's like, okay, here's what I will do. Here's what I won't do, because you don't want to shock it too much, because then out of pure defiance, it'll just kind of talk you out of it. So I said, okay, I will give myself a warning alarm. So at 6 o'clock, I will get up and I will turn off that alarm. But when the 6:30 alarm goes off, I literally have to stay out of the bed. I cannot get back in the bed. I can sit on the edge of the bed, but I cannot get under the covers. I can't do any of that other stuff that I always was trying to do, right? And so after about maybe 2 weeks, I kind of got over myself. And then I realized that voice, that like sort of like inner voice that's like, I don't want to. Do I have to? Is it already this time? Oh my gosh. After a while, that voice sort of went away. And I didn't even realize that it went away until I noticed. And I thought, wow, what a relief that is. And so it was just something that small, something infinitesimally small that for you is a big deal. Just because your romantic partner or your family members or your friends don't have the same issue doesn't mean that, it should, be, not like a challenge for you. I mean, it can still be a challenge for you, because it's about, you're not really comparing yourself to other people. You're comparing your old self to the person that you're ready to become. Okay. Like really just stepping into your greatness. And so that's really for me, like what woman up really means. Woman up just means like really like embracing your inner badass, like holding yourself accountable, following through on what it is that you say that you're going to do. Because it's not fair for you to look at someone else and go, oh, well, you promised me that you were going to do this or that. Look at how many other promises you've broken to yourself, in the past week, in the past month, in the past year. And so I really want to encourage people because, one of the things that I have suffered from in the past is, like that end of the year, like that New Year's Eve remorse. Because you look back at the past year and you realize all the things that you said that you were going to do and you didn't do them because you negotiated yourself out of doing them. And, I don't like that feeling. It's just such a horrible, horrible feeling. It's a feeling of disappointment and you lose trust. You literally lose trust with yourself because you don't hold yourself to a standard of actually keeping the commitments that you make to yourself. And I know it's so easy for people to say, well, I keep my commitments to other people, just not to myself. What do you mean just not to yourself? You are important. You are enough. You are enough of a reason to hold yourself accountable for what you say. And just to think, if you do have experiences with other people, maybe, letting you down or, not keeping their promises to you or kind of going back and forth on their word, if you do have people like that in your life, just realize, one, it's not fair for you to expect other people to keep their commitments to you if you're not going to keep your commitments to yourself. Okay. And that doesn't mean that you let everybody off the hook, but what it means is that it's an opportunity for you to actually build trust with yourself. And once you start to build trust with yourself, you'll be surprised in the ways that trustworthiness around you starts to manifest itself, because that's fair. Okay. So just be more mindful of what it is that you say to yourself, the excuses that you make that you shrug off as reasons, saying that you don't have enough time. That was another big one for me. And I had to get over saying that, because the thing is that it wasn't that I didn't have enough time. It's that I didn't know how to manage my time. And so when you look at it, and I encourage anyone who ever has this reason, AKA excuse, right? Because you have to be no nonsense. You have to stop bullshitting yourself, and you have to recognize when what you're saying is a form of bullshitting yourself. Okay. So, look at it like, all right, these are excuses or these are reasons, and let me see how it is that I manage my time, and start to keep a log just for maybe like a week. Okay. So start the next day, right? And start from the moment that you get up and see how long it takes for you to get ready for the day. Okay. Then log how much time you spend, browsing the internet, how much time you spend on any device, right? Outside of just checking emails and following up with people on your correspondence for business or what have you, right? How much time you spend on social media, how much time you just log how you spend your time. And I'm not saying that you can't make time for, things that bring you joy, marathon watching, some whatever season of Grey's Anatomy. I'll use Grey's because I'm like a total Grey's addict. But what I realized was that this is an amazing show, but I'm not getting shit done. And this is crazy. This is crazy. I could literally tell you every single episode. If there was a Grey's trivia, I would win the trivia game. Okay. Trust me. Believe that. Okay. And I'm not saying you can't have your fuck off days. Decide what are your fuck off days. Okay. Maybe it's Sunday. Maybe it's Tuesday. Maybe it's Tuesday from 6 to 10 and then you go to bed. Okay. Maybe it's that. But again, log your time, see how it is that you're spending your time. And then look at the things that you say or that you've been saying that you want to do, and factor in how much time that you're just sort of wasting and you have nothing really to show for it. It doesn't make you feel better about yourself. It doesn't, make you feel accomplished. It makes you feel kind of like like you're just slacking off. And that's just, that's not ultimately what people want. People want to be productive. People want to be fruitful. People want to succeed. They want to accomplish things. We are meant to accomplish things. So when you're just sitting and you're, saying, oh, well, I don't have time to, I don't know, whatever it is, be social. I don't have time for a social life. Okay, really? How many hours did you sit and watch a TV show? Oh, would that be time? Yes, that would be time. So, look at how it is that you're spending your time, and then actually like learn how to manage it and say, you know what, I didn't really need to spend, you know, 8 hours watching TV. I didn't really need to spend, and don't even just look at it as TV, because I know a lot of people will say, well, I don't watch TV. Okay, but what are you doing? You're doing something. Something is happening with that time. But what are you doing with it? And so it is important to push ourselves. And I know like there's so many things out there that say, oh, don't push yourself. There's upstream thoughts and downstream thoughts and this and that. And if you can ever relate to a time where you wanted to negotiate yourself out of doing something that was in your best interest, right? Look at, how many times maybe you didn't want to go for that run. How many times you didn't want to go to the gym, how many times you didn't want to, whatever it was, right? Fill in the blank. And once you actually started doing the thing, once you actually sat down to work on the blog, the podcast, the whatever it is, you actually started to get some momentum and you actually kind of started to get into the swing of things. Okay, so just look at it that way of just sort of, pushing yourself a little bit. I was watching a really, really great, I think it was a podcast. Yes, it was a podcast. I was watching a podcast maybe a couple months ago, and I heard the most brilliant thing I have heard in my life. And it really scientifically, from a neuroscience standpoint, actually, really backs up what I'm saying. So, I think the neuroscientist's name is Andrew Huberman. I'm not sure, don't totally quote me, but I think his Instagram is Huberman Lab. And what was interesting is that he was talking to, I think it was Lewis Howe on School of Greatness. And it's such a great episode. And I watched it like at least 3 times, because anything that's educational, I love to watch it over and over again just to make sure I really get it. And he was talking about neuroplasticity. And so for those of you who don't know what neuroplasticity is, it's basically our brain's ability to change and to adapt. And how sometimes we're getting agitated or frustrated because we're forcing ourselves to do things. And what he said is that, that feeling of agitation has a chemical response. And that's actually sort of like a precursor to neuroplasticity. So just think of any time, you're at the gym, or anytime you're lifting weights, or just doing this new exercise routine, this new regimen, and you just feel like you can't go any longer, but you push and you're getting frustrated and you're getting agitated. Just know that push neurologically is actually helpful for you. It actually is what is facilitating change in your life. And if you want to facilitate change in your life and you want to maintain changing and improving in your life, then just know that sometimes it's not going to be easy. Sometimes it might feel like it kind of sucks, but find little rewards that you can do for yourself. And I don't mean big rewards. I don't always mean monetary rewards, because that can get expensive pretty fast. I mean, if you have the money, go for it. But otherwise, find different things that you can do to give yourself that added little, dopamine release. So maybe for you, it's, I don't know, a scoop of ice cream. Okay, I will get a scoop of ice cream when I finish thus and so, whatever this project is. And set dates. Anytime someone tells me they're going to do something, and this is even from personal experience with myself, anytime I say I'm going to do something and I don't set a deadline, then I don't do it. And that's how I can tell when people are going to do things. Like when I talk to, say even just like friends or family, for example, and I say, oh, okay, so when are you going to do that? When are you going to do whatever that thing is that you were talking about. I don't know. I'm not going to set a date. I already know they're not going to do it. And so by the time they say, oh yeah, I decided to take a break from that, I just, already knew they weren't going to do it. And the thing is, they already knew they weren't going to do it. They knew that they would do it if it felt easy enough for them, if it didn't pose too much of a challenge, if it wasn't too inconvenient. But the thing is we don't always refrain from doing something because we don't really want to do it. It's because we don't really feel like doing it. And that's a very important distinction to make, because I know there are things out there that people want to, even we'll say like losing weight. That's a very common example, right? It's not that people don't necessarily want to lose the weight or gain the weight. For me, it's more like gain the weight. It's not that people don't want to accomplish this. It's that they don't feel like doing it. And a lot of times the reason why people don't feel like following through is because they're not used to following through. And so their body and their brain has gotten accustomed to giving up. And they just see that somehow as like giving up, like they see that as sort of, well, I guess I really didn't want to do it. It's just another way for people to kind of let themselves off the hook. So I think that it's just so important that we tell ourselves the truth. We're making excuses, and we're not being gentle with ourselves by bullshitting ourselves. We're not. And when we overuse that, when we use that to the point of, we have months or years that we just wasted. We literally wasted that time making excuses for why we weren't used to challenging ourselves. And so that's why it's so important. I think it's so imperative for people to challenge themselves, because you sometimes don't even realize how much you're capable of. And so I'm going to give this one last example, and then I'm going to let you guys go for the day. But okay, prime example. So I was watching another podcast, of course. I was watching an episode of Wim Hof, I think it was like on Impact Theory. And for those of you who don't know who Wim Hof is, he's this Guinness World breaking guy that he's also known as like the Iceman. And he's done all of this breath work and using cold therapy as a way of healing. And he was talking, and I've heard for years about how cold therapy is very healthy to do, and how it reduces inflammation and this and that. And there's just all these great health benefits to it. And I just could not, for the life of me, picture myself ever really doing cold therapy, because I am one of those people, and I live in LA. So that gives you any idea. Anytime it's like less than 70 degrees in the shade, I need a sweater. Like usually, like I've just needed a sweater. And in my home, I usually keep it around like 72 or 74 degrees or even hotter. When it's winter, I'm cranking up the heat like nobody's business. And I just could not fathom ever doing cold therapy. And so what he does, he has these breathwork exercises that you can do, and you should definitely YouTube them because they're really great. And I decided that I was going to do a 40-day cold therapy challenge where I would do breath work and I would do a cold shower. I gotta tell you, I really, you know what? Here's the thing, because this is kind of one of the messages I want to leave you guys with today. The thing is, the fact that I said that I would do it and I would challenge myself meant that I knew that I could do it. But I also knew it would be a challenge. And that's something I really want to leave you guys with, because I literally never would have thought in a million years that I could do a cold shower. And I think I started with like 2 minutes. I think my highest time was, I think I went up to like 10 minutes one time. Not even one time, I think, but during that 40-day span, I did like 10-minute cold showers. 10-minute cold showers, me, Nazra, 70 degrees in the shade with a sweater. I mean, literally, like, I'm always the one who, you know, when we go out to a restaurant and there's a chair, like, or there's a table, like, in direct sunlight, or one of the chairs at the table is direct sunlight, I'm the one right there, like a lizard on a rock, just like baking. And the other person's like, oh my God, aren't you hot? And I'm going, no, I'm not. It feels amazing. So for me to do that challenge was everything. And the thing that, you know, is so important for you guys to really understand is that if you told yourself that you were going to do it, you knew that you could. Something somewhere in you knew that you could do it. Otherwise, you would not have said it. It doesn't mean that it's not more challenging than you thought it would be. That's not what it means. But what it means is that something intuitively within you knows that you're capable of it and you can do it. Now, whether or not you trust yourself to follow through on doing it or not is a whole other different thing. That's a whole other different game. So I'm going to leave you with that for today. And again, so anytime like I'm like feeling like where I don't want to do something, or I want to do it, but I don't feel like doing it, you know, I don't bullshit myself and tell myself that I'm doing the best I can with what I know at the time, because sometimes that's bullshit, because sometimes we're not. A lot of times we're not. And so, you know, sayings like that, doing the best we can with what we know at the time, being gentle with ourselves. Okay, there's a time to be gentle with yourself. You know, if you've been sick, or you've, you know, cared for someone who was sick, or, you know, you've just been doing a lot and you just are the type of person who doesn't give yourself much credit for what it is that you've done. Okay, that's one thing. But, you know, a lot of times we say that it's just a way to let ourselves off the hook. And at the end of the day, you either want excuses for why you didn't do something, or you want to have the success story of all the reasons why you could have not done something, but you did it anyway. And so if I can do it after, you know, 5 years of talking about launching my t-shirt line, I finally launched it this year, you know, months of talking about launching my podcast. Okay. And now I'm doing it. I did a 40-day cold therapy challenge. I started writing a book that I've been talking about writing, you know, for years. And I decided, you know what, I'm not going to write a book in one day, but there will be days where I will write my book, and then eventually I will be finished. And to have that sense of accomplishment, I have to tell you, ladies, I mean, even men who are watching, you know, man up, woman up. You know, if you're like the type of person like me that you really kind of like that, appreciate that tough love of like, woman the fuck up, then do that. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I feel like sometimes when I really like find my ego kind of stepping in and trying to negotiate me out of what it is that I'm capable of. I say, you know what, woman the fuck up, turn off the TV, you know, sit down to the computer, you know, maybe turn on some music in the background if you want to, but sit down and get to work. You know, we have less than 30 days, you know, left in this year. And I know this year has been tough for a lot of people, but if you've been one of the fortunate ones, as I have, you know, have something to show for it. Have something to show for yourself that tells you that you can trust you when you say that you're going to do something, that you'll actually do it, because it feels amazing. And that's what keeps me inspired, knowing that I can challenge myself and I can move to the next level and I can constantly be improving. You know, it's not about perfectionism, it's about progress. And if I am always progressing, I know that I'm mastering my life. When I know that I can step into my days consistently, it doesn't mean that you don't have off days, because you definitely do. And you definitely need your fuck off days too. That's also important, because it's all about balance, right? So again, whatever it is that keeps you inspired, know your why and hold yourself accountable to that why. and let yourself know the feeling of what it feels like to accomplish, your goals, like to even reach milestones, over the course of your goals. Again, like me writing a book, it's not going to happen in one day, in one afternoon, or even in 1 week, right? But it happens in every, 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 words. That's an accomplishment, and that should be celebrated. So again, I'm going to leave you guys with that for today. I'm so excited about the episodes today have already shot that are coming up. So we're going to be talking with a lot of different professionals, experts, everyday people, entertainers. It's going to be super exciting. I'm really into, mental health and mental wellness. I think that's such a huge component of our lives that we just sometimes don't spend enough time in. And I want for people to always feel like they're challenging themselves, motivating themselves, staying inspired, because again, we all have those off days and we need to kind of like plug in to whatever it is gonna, excite us again and get us back out there. So yeah, we're going to be talking about a lot of amazing things. So let me know like what kind of topics that you guys would like to hear more of. Even in my one-on-ones where I'm just talking straight to you guys without even a guest. But we're going to be talking about attachment theory. We're going to be talking about device usage and how it can be very addictive and staying connected and engaged. We're going to be talking about single shaming. We're going to talk about going from full-time to being fulfilled, what it means to be, a sole parent and to be happy, even when you are a sole parent. We're going to be talking about so many different things. So I want to hear, what are you guys excited to listen to? What kind of topics do you enjoy listening to? And so feel free to DM me or leave comments in the chat. I am so interested to know what it is that you guys are thinking and what you thought of this episode and what else you would like for me to talk with you guys about, because I'm all for it. So again, I'm so excited. Thank you so much. And I will see you guys again next Tuesday. So as always, stay tuned and stay inspired.